Well, the economy is obviously one of the hot topics in last night's debate. A new poll from the Siena Research Institute just out today paints a picture of New Yorkers' financial situation as we head into Election Day. And 47% of the New Yorkers polled say they are not better off than they were 4 years ago. 35% of those polled say they are better off. And 17% of the people say their financial situation is unchanged. Joining us now from our Capitol Bureau is Dr. Don Levy from the Siena Research Institute to talk more about the poll. And certainly New York is a blue state. Is there any reason to translate these kinds of numbers into an erosion of support for President Obama?
Well, I don't think there's any way to look at that here in the state of New York, but I think it shows you what an important election this is and what a tough election it is. Not only did we find, Liz, that more people say they're worse off today than they were 4 years ago, but when we ask them specifically about their job security, their monthly cash flow, or their ability to save and invest, in each of those categories, more New Yorkers, and especially more upstaters, say they're worse off today than they were 4 years ago. That's a concern that goes into every voter's mind as they enter the booth.
There does not seem to be a lot of support in this poll for high-income earners here in New York State.
No, absolutely not. An overwhelming majority, 68% in this poll of New Yorkers, say that they'd like to see tax increases for those Americans, those New Yorkers making over $250,000 a year. We see some other things in this poll about what voters in New York would like to see change. They'd like to see, at the same time, more infrastructure development. They'd like to see preservation of entitlements like Social Security and Medicare. They'd like to see more, at the same time, exploration and development of domestic energy. Voters would like to see a lot of things happen. They'd like to see these politicians that we elect on November 6th get to work for them.
Could we translate that energy into hydrofracking or no?
Well, I think when we poll specifically about hydrofracking, then we see voters here in New York evenly divided. What we do see is that voters would like to see more domestic energy overall. When it gets a little close to home, then some folks get their back up.
All right. How about the other thing I thought was interesting is whether New Yorkers are saving for their future. Are they, or can they?
Well, that's a tough question. I think they would like to, but we see only about 40% of New Yorkers, slightly fewer upstate, who say that in addition to anything that their employer may have put aside for them, that they've been able to save more. How confident are we that we're going to be safe in retirement? Again, only about 4 out of 10 New Yorkers are confident that they're going to be able to maintain their lifestyle when they retire. There's grave concerns about whether or not we're able to save enough.
Was there any particular number at all that really struck you in terms of upstate, downstate?
Well, one number that really jumped off the page at me, that really surprised me, we asked people whether they personally know anyone who has lost their home to foreclosure in the last year. And that number still is very high. 29% of folks, both across the state and upstate, say that they personally know someone who's lost their home to foreclosure. It's still a tough economic time. The recovery is taking place, but clearly it's slow when we ask New Yorkers.
Boy, I guess so. Thank you so much for being with us today. We look forward to talking to you again.